President Buhari arrives Daura for state polls.
INEC and security chiefs assure Nigerians of better outing in Saturday's elections.
We've known your modus operandi and we are ready for you.
The Commission will not tolerate the act of holding our officials hostage and forcing them to declare winners under duress.
NLC felicitates with President Buhari on his re-election.
On Good Morning Nigeria today, we shall be taking a look at final preparations for the governorship and House of Assembly elections.
Yes, it's election eve, and it's another time for elections for governorship and state houses of assembly. And across the nation, INEC and other interest groups, especially the civil society and indeed Nigerians, are putting finishing touches to their preparations for this second phase of the 2019 general elections.
Yes, Blessing. Now, in the Federal Capital Territory, there are no governorship elections, but the FCT area council elections for chairmanship and councillorship positions have coincided with the general elections, and so we'll be holding simultaneously with other state elections this Saturday.
You're right, Kingsley. Now, it's important to note that the governorship elections will be taking place in 29, that's out of the 36 states of the country.
Now, 7 states, and these are Kogi, Bayelsa, Edo, Anambra, Ondo, Ekiti, and Osun, have off-cycle governorship elections due to previous judicial decisions, and therefore will not be participating in the governorship elections, although throughout the country we would have House of Assembly elections.
Certainly. Now, for the governorship elections, statistics from INEC indicate that 1,068 candidates are contesting to be the chief executive in such states.
Now, for the state houses of assembly, 14,785 candidates are said to be vying for the 991 seats.
Now, in the Federal Capital Territory, the chairmanship and councillorship elections will be holding in the territory's 6 area councils of Abuja, Bwari, Gwagwalada, Abuja Municipal Area Council, otherwise known as AMAC, Kuje, and Kwali.
Now, 806 candidates will be contesting for the 86 positions in the FCT Area Council election. Sorry, by the way, that's in the FCT Area Council election. And it's worthy to note that it is INEC, that is to say the Independent National Electoral Commission, that conducts the elections for the FCT.
Unlike what we have in the state where we have a SEC.
That's right.
All right. Now you do know that aside the governorship, as well as state houses of assembly and the Federal Area Council elections, INEC will also be conducting National Assembly supplementary elections in 14 states, comprising 7 senatorial as well as 24 House of Representatives elections.
Now, the campaigns officially ended at midnight of Thursday, and a continuation of our countdown to E-Day, we have again assembled another set of guests, including INEC officials, to update us on the final preparations for the polls.
Indeed, there are many questions to ask. Of course, we actually took the analysis of what transpired at the presidential polls, that's penultimate week, and all through till date. So, as INEC itself, is INEC actually fully prepared for Saturday's election? Or in the actual word, ready to go? What's that word now?
Good to go.
Good to go. Okay. So, what will be the voting pattern this Saturday? Well, the outcome of the presidential, like I already pointed out, have effect on the governorship election. You know, state voted in one way or the other, especially for the National Assembly. We had some surprises here and there. Well, will there be voter apathy? I hope there will be. Well, some of these answers we'll be seeking from our guests as they join us on this edition of Good Morning Nigeria. Thank you for joining us. We're reaching you live, as usual, on Africa's largest television network, the NTA. My name is Blessing Abu.
And I'm Kingsley Osadolo. I join Blessing and also welcoming you to this edition of the program, in the course of which we shall bring you our complimentary segments. And these are newspaper review, business, sports, foreign, and entertainment. But first, let's take the news highlights by one of our other colleagues, Lydia Odije Ochi. Lydia Ochi, give us the news.
Thank you, Kingsley. Good morning, Blessing. Here is the news. President Muhammadu Buhari has arrived in Daura in Katsina State ahead of the governorship and state assembly elections on Saturday. The president was received at Umaru Musa Yar'Adua International Airport, Katsina, by Governor Aminu Bello Masari. The President Buhari, who is visiting the state for the first time since his re-election for a second term in office, was also accorded a befitting welcome by party stalwarts, the business community, and other well-wishers. A similar reception was also accorded the president by his enthusiastic supporters on arrival at his country home of Daura. Leading the welcoming party was the paramount ruler of the ancient kingdom of Daura, Umar Farouk Umar. President Muhammadu Buhari, who is still basking in the euphoria of his victory at the polls, is expected to be among the electorate on Saturday during the governorship and state assembly elections. Now, President Muhammadu Buhari says the People's Democratic Party still owe Nigerians explanations on how the humongous resources that accrued to the country from oil sales between 1999 and 2014 were expended. Receiving the leadership of the organized labor on a congratulatory visit, the president insists that Nigerians deserve an answer on what he called the terrible mismanagement of the country.
Your Excellency, organized labor remain committed partners in national progress, peace and stability. We urge government to continue to engage us in national building, and we assure you we will continue also to support government policies and programs. We must consolidate on your successes of the past 4 years by strengthening the relationship between government and organized labor.
You intervene as patriots. It was not for political, religious, and tribal purposes. You simply did the right thing during a very difficult period for many of us. On behalf of all Nigerians who benefited from your kind support, I want to say thank you.
The Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, and security chiefs have assured Nigerians of better outing in Saturday's elections as they meet to review the February 23rd national elections.
We saw what you've done before, we've known your modus operandi, and we are ready for you.
The Commission will not tolerate the act of holding our officials hostage and forcing them to declare winners under duress. Where such occurs, the Commission will not reward bad behavior by issuing them the certificates of return.
Still on the elections, the Sultanate Council of Sokoto has called on Nigerians to come out en masse to vote candidates of their choice in a peaceful manner. A statement signed by Secretary to the Sultanate Council of Sokoto, Umar Farouk Ladan, calls on the public to avoid any act that will obstruct peace before, during, and after the election. It also appeals to INEC to ensure the conduct of free, fair, and credible elections. The Sultanate Council also urged security agencies to remain neutral and act in accordance with the laid-down rules and regulations of elections as provided by the laws of the country. Appreciating the Muslim clerics for their prayers, the Council calls on them to hold special prayers for peaceful elections in the country, while urging leaders of political parties to warn their members against any acts capable of disrupting the peace of the nation. Ahead of Saturday's gubernatorial and state assemblies elections, the Nigerian Civil Society Situation Room has asked the Independent National Electoral Commission to take steps necessary for smooth conduct. Convener of the Situation Room, Clement Nwankwo, urges the Commission to learn from the mistakes of the presidential elections.
The With the way the administration of the election was conducted. This is an election that is much more localized, so there'll be a lot more interest, there'll be a lot more controversial, a lot more contentious. So we expect that INEC knows to start the polls early, knows to deliver materials, knows to be able to control the interference of the security in the elections, because it has statutory powers to define the extent of participation of security officials in these elections. So we are asking INEC to better manage this election than happened with the presidential and National Assembly elections.
Situation Room advises politicians to shun acts that may lead to violence. The 2019 presidential elections may have come and gone, but there are lessons to be learned by the electoral umpire, security agencies, and other stakeholders as preparations intensify for the governorship and state houses of assembly elections. This was highlighted at an interactive session organized by the Federal Radio Corporation of Nigeria on evaluation of the 2019 presidential election in Abuja.
For it. We're working with the security agencies to ensure there's adequate security on that day, because that was of great concern to everybody.
Whether it is INEC officials, whether it is the media, whether it is members of the civil society groups, a lot of them who have put their time, their life on the line to defend democracy, or whether it is the ordinary electorate, we must always collectively stand for the truth.
And that's the news for now. Good Morning Nigeria continues with Blessing and Kingsley after this break. Don't go away.
Welcome back. If you just tuned in, the program is Good Morning Nigeria. Let's take a look at some business stories. The value of agricultural exports rose by 77.37% from 170.4 billion naira in Q4, that's of 2018, while the value of agri-import declined. Now, let's get Joy. No, I beg your pardon. Let's get Kunle Adeyeye to give us details of this.
Data from the National Bureau of Statistics revealed that the agri-reforms of the present administration is already yielding the needed results. To further sustain the rice revolution and increase export potential of locally produced rice, some rice marketers have initiated the training of rice farmers in the FCT and 22 states of the Federation to build capacity of rice producers in Nigeria.
During a project in Nasarawa and Niger states from 2011 to 2016, so one of the technologies developed was this post-bottom parboiling technology. The idea of the technology is for parboilers to steam their rice instead of cooking it. Using this method improves the quality of the rice produced, invariably increases the profit they make from it.
Away from rice production, in its determination to ensure privatized enterprises in the country provide dividends to the citizenry in line with the privatization policy of the federal government, Public Enterprises BPE has inaugurated 4 committees to come up with a mechanism for addressing the complexities and challenges hindering growth and development of some privatized enterprises in the country, which were handed over to core investors over 10 years ago. Inaugurating the committees in Abuja, Director General of the BPE, Mr. Alex Oko, noted that the committees are also expected to provide policymakers with further insight into practical realities facing the sectors in which the enterprises were privatized and profile credible solutions to addressing the problems. There are committees on housing sector, mines and steel development, oil palm and automobile. In another development, the Federal Ministry of Industry, Trade and Investment has said oil dealers have been exploiting Nigerians to the tune of 198,500 naira on each truck sold. Director of Weights and Measures in the ministry, Mohammed Sidi, during a surveillance activity, said the ministry will ensure that commercial transactions involving the use of weights and measures are accurate.
My advice to Nigerian consumer is to be mindful of the existence of this Weights and Measures department in the Ministry of Industry and Investment. We need their collaboration, we need their support in the sense that you come to us and tell us your observation, your layman observation of whatever transferred between you and a seller of a commodity.
And next is Thursday's graphic representation of tradings on the floor of the Nigerian Stock Exchange. With business news, I'm Kunle Adeyeye.
Thank you very much, Kunle Adeyeye, for the updates on business. Next for us is a review of the papers we have with us this morning. All right, we have about 6 papers. That's the one we also, including the one we are also taking for the editorial. Of course, the front pages are full of stories pertaining to the governorship and state House of Assembly elections, plus, of course, matters arising from the visit by the NLC to President Buhari yesterday. Maybe begin with you.
Okay.
Blessing, let's.
So you don't want to start?
No, let's start with you, and then of course we have Bayo join us subsequently to discuss the stories.
Okay, certainly we'll have him join us soon. Oh, the Telegraph is given the caption "Tension in States." That's for the polls. 19 governors battle opposition to retain seats. APC targets Akwa Ibom, Abia, Kwara, Gombe, Sokoto, and Benue. And another rider, PDP unsettles APC in Lagos, Plateau, Oyo, and Imo. Soldiers create panic in rivers, and military jets to patrol Kwara, and police deploys 15,544 personnel in rivers for polls. More details on pages 2 and 11. Now, just below the photograph there, where we have INEC to conduct supplementary elections in 14 states, something we already drilled to in our introduction this morning. 2 riders to that effect. IGP, we're ready for troublemakers, and also federal government closes land borders. And for the front of the Daily Sun, has a photograph of some of the contestants. 24 hours to Guba election, titanic battle. We're going into a war front.
Well, it's not a war. I mean, even though some persons liken it to a war, that's why some persons have the pretext that violence could aid them, in the electoral war. Yes, metaphorically, you can say it's an electoral battle, but it isn't. It isn't a war in the real sense of it. Let's take a look at the Daily Trust newspaper. Daily Trust newspaper has as its lead story. It says, as Nigerians elect governors tomorrow, epic battle in Kano, Kaduna, Lagos, Benue, Rivers, and others. And then, of course, the paper has an illustration on the front page, which is quite useful visually in having an appreciation of what it says will be the epic battle. You can see the states in whether slightly red or magenta. It says Kano, Kaduna, Bauchi, Plateau, Taraba, Benue, Kwara, Ogun, Lagos, Imo, Rivers, Akwa Ibom. That's to say, states where contest will be tough. And then 7 states, that's states in blue. Those states are placid. It says states where there will be no governorship election, because those states coincide with the off-cycle elections. They include Kogi, Osun, Ekiti, Ondo, Edo, Anambra, and Bayelsa. But of course, there will be House of Assembly elections in those states. So the governors, of course, will also be interested in who the members of the House of Assembly are arising from the voting tomorrow. And coming to the Nigerian Pilot newspaper, just below the nameplate, of course, that's where you have the lead story. There are 2 other headlines there. Nigerian pilot, again Buhari spits fire. Declares he's not yet done with PDP over looted funds. Insists party must account for $16 billion spent on power. Describes PDP rule as an era of unprecedented and irresponsible expenditure. And to continue with change agenda, economy, security, and fight against corruption. Details can be found on page 8 of the paper. And German government donates 15 million euros to support child education in Northeast. That's on page 6. And below that, you have a window of several headlines. Vote for only good candidates, irrespective of parties, says Buhari's wife. That's on page 6. True federalism, weapon to fight poverty and marginalization. Court strikes out suit seeking Rec Iguine's removal. Iguine is the resident electoral commissioner in Akwa Ibom. 51-year-old engineer arrested for defiling and impregnating minor. An appeal court affirms Ayo Gueze as Enugu APC governorship candidate, page 12. Bayo?
Good morning and welcome, Bayo.
Thank
the floor
you.
is yours.
Thank you. I got stuck somewhere, but here I am, and INEC says it is ready for the elections tomorrow. By today, all materials that are required will have been reaching the Registration Area Council, which is referred to as RAC. This is to enable the poll start at 8 o'clock tomorrow morning. Smart cards have been reconfigured, and its usage is mandatory. There will be no exemption from their deployment, that is for the deployment of card readers. In fact, INEC chairman is categorical. He says, where card readers are not deployed, elections shall be zero. There are to be elections in 1,082 constituencies nationwide. Supplementary elections will be held in 14 states, and this is involving 7 senatorial seats and 24 federal constituencies. 1,066 candidates are contesting for governors in 29 states. 14,583 are contesting for 991 state House of Assembly seats. There are 105 contestants for the seats in the FCT area councils, while 701 contestants are going for the councillorship for the Federal Capital Territory. Saturday's election will see about 80 female candidates squaring up against 987 males in 29 state governor elections. Incidentally, today is International Women's Day, and so positive news for affirmative action. In Kano,
unfortunately, the voting is not taking place today.
Well, prelude to it.
At least you should have told somebody Happy Women's Day.
Kano has 55 governorship candidates, and guess what? There are 7 of them who are women. And out of the 769 candidates who are contesting for assembly, the State House of Assembly, there are 40 women contesting. So Kano is in the lead as far as affirmative action is concerned. In 2015, there were about 369 candidates contesting governorship elections. So if you compare it with this year, you see that there is more indication that democracy is actually gaining grounds and the interest is heightening. APC is excluded in Rivers, and this is based on Supreme Court ruling. However, yesterday, courts in Enugu confirmed Senator Ayo Gueze as the APC candidate for the elections, while the appeal court has ordered a stay of execution for the APC candidate for Taraba. Sokoto also, Court of Appeal has confirmed the Zamfara candidate. Meanwhile, the court case that was held in Abuja has also confirmed the APC candidate for Ogun State. So that is the position of the contestant for tomorrow.
Okay, let's go back to the front page of the Daily Sun. Yeah. Just by the APC, we have appeal court reinstates Taraba, Enugu APC global candidates. That story, find more details about that on page 4. Okay, now moving towards the foot of the page. That's just below the photographs now of the contestant for the different states governorship elections. PDP made irresponsible spending. This is coming from the president, or created to the president now. More details about that on page 6. How Jonathan Fashola arrested Ebola spread in Nigeria. It's coming from, we'll find more details on page 41. Now, Nigeria loses 1.42 trillion naira to violence against children. UNICEF is crying out loud there. Page 10 will let you into it. Okay, let's see all the stories. Kingsley, what's in
No,
your
I'm
papers?
done with the stories on the front pages.
Okay.
Except we're going inside. They are human interest stories, but you have some other stories to
Yes,
discuss
I wanted
first.
to draw attention to the warning coming from the Independent National Electoral Commission. The chairman has categorically said that the INEC will not tolerate holding of its officials hostage. The chairman, while briefing for the election, said forcing them to declare winners elections and election results under duress would not be tolerated. Professor Mahmoud Yakubu told Interagency Committee on Election Security that when such occurred, there will be no certificate of result. It may be recalled that on February 23rd, INEC materials, ballot boxes, voting cubicles, voter registration, smart cards, and other items were seized by hooligans and criminal thugs. Some of INEC staff were abducted and taken hostage to disrupt the election. The chairman has commiserated with the members of the public who lost relations, as well as members of the security agencies who lost personnel. And he has assured that INEC will work with the police to prosecute all those who offended the electoral law. Citizens should now be of concern that there will be intrusive protection before, during, and after the elections. An arrangement have been made to safeguard for them to come out. The Chief of Army Staff has also warned that the Nigerian Army has intelligence indicating that politicians have perfected plans to disrupt the second election leg coming up on Saturday. The Chief of Army Staff was briefing principal staff officers, GOCs, operational commanders, and directing staff, and he says indications are that herders, farmers' crisis, armed political talks, and ethnic militia are to be used to perpetrate acts of violence, bombing, and disruption of the polls. And he says that some plan to infiltrate political opponents, employ mercenaries to carry out assassination. They are to use social media for scary campaigns and hate speech as well as fake news. And he reiterated that the army will be very tough on all those who are involved in disrupting of the elections. He clarified that the army is not involved in elections, but they are available to provide internal security to support the police in election operations.
Yeah, thank you. The warning by the INEC chairman with regard to INEC withholding the certificate of return in circumstances where, for instance, the returning officer is compelled to announce a result, make a declaration, and then issue a certificate of return, that INEC, of course, would not complete the process by giving the certificate of return to whoever was announced. That's a fine move to make.
Yeah.
But there were reports arising from the contests of the National Assembly elections. There are probably one or two instances where the returning officer announced the results, made a declaration, and also a return under duress. So what happens in those circumstances, or in one or two of those circumstances?
Those who have violated the electoral act should be held accountable. Because under no account should electoral officer who has responsibility for election results be put under duress to announce election results which are contrary to what he will willfully declare.
Absolutely, that's what I'm saying. I'm saying that the INEC should, retrace its steps if there were any such incidents that occurred, because there were all kinds of reports, as you very well know, that somebody literally had a gun to his head. He announced the result, made a declaration. So if you don't have a certificate of return, of course, if you are going to the National Assembly, there is no way the clerk of the Assembly will admit you into the chambers. So if there's any such circumstance, it means perhaps you will have to have a rerun or have the votes properly tallied and the real results announced, which also calls for the presence of the security agencies under such circumstances. But there's a human interest story, by the way.
Well.
Yeah, but this is coming from Tanzania, and it's at page 48 of the Lip Trust newspaper. Of course, you'll find it on another foreign producer for that paper. It's a teacher to hang for killing pupil. The story is that a teacher in Tanzania has been sentenced to death for beating a pupil so badly that he died of his injuries. The teacher is age 51, and he was said to have acted maliciously when he repeatedly hit the child with a blunt object in August of last year. The teacher had accused the pupil, who is aged 14, or who was age 14, of stealing a female teacher's handbag. Now, corporal punishment is illegal in Tanzania, but remains common practice in schools. The family of the deceased boy refused to bury him until the culprit was arrested. And although the death penalty can be handed down by law, Tanzania hasn't carried out any execution since 1994. And the condemned man has a right of appeal.
Yes. Well, the story I have, it's back in the country, and it's in Lagos State. That's on page 8 of New Telegraph. Robbery, we cut off 20 victims' wrists in Lagos. This comes from the suspect. A rider, OPC member, supplier. Well, my attention is, it said it was learned that the suspect cut off the hand of the victim when they were carrying out a house-to-house robbery operation in January. And said, we were not wicked when we started, but the victims made us to become hardened because they always lied to us that they had no money whenever they come for operations. Now, most times when they give us small phones, we always see reasons with them and leave. But when they told us, okay, we ought to have seen maybe bigger phones, smartphones, and all of the likes. So we later discovered they were deceiving us whenever we demanded bigger items and other valuables. So one day, my second in command suggested that we should cut off their wrists. How wicked
can you imagine? It's an irony. A criminal, a thief, saying that somebody who has property for whom he has taken has no honesty. It reminds me of a youth copper who was traveling, and there was this armed robbery incident, and he quickly hid the little money he had in his socks. And the robber said, "Oh, copper, do you have any money?" The boy said no, and he searched and found the money stuck in the socks. I said, "NYSC, common honesty you don't have." Imagine armed robber telling somebody that you don't have honesty.
It's unfortunate. Well, the law should, if they caught those criminals, the law should take its course.
Exactly.
And not just taking its course, swiftly too, swiftly.
There's a human interest story that will also ring a bell. In Gabon, they are now clarifying that President Ali Bongo does not have a body double. Does that ring a bell?
Yeah, that's right. There's no Jibrin in Gabon. All right, let's take our editorial this morning. And it's coming from... by the way, the Gabon, there were some stories before that the Gabonese president was a Nigerian, actually.
Yes.
Yeah, that story
is... The Civil War, he was among the persons
the story has lingered for a long while.
Was adopted.
So maybe they have to go to Sudan now to look for a proper body double for him.
He's recuperating in Morocco, actually.
That's right. That's right. The editorial is at page 19 of the Punch newspaper. Police must secure NYSC members during polls. And it says safety concerns for NYSC members deployed as ad hoc personnel during elections have become a recurring decimal. In the just concluded polls, 18 of them were abducted in 3 local government areas of Akwa Ibom, although 14 were later freed. The editorial adds that the stakes for the governorship and state assembly polls are very high, being a contest closer to the grassroots. As a result, the gladiators will be more daring in deploying every weapon in their armory to win. Such desperation will undoubtedly lead to security breaches. For this reason, INEC, through the police, should ensure the safety of corps members is not compromised.
In fact, the National Youth Service Corps was categorical with his statement that any state that there is palpable violence, NYSC members will not be available for even primary assignment, not even to talk of ad hoc assignment for elections. And the NYSC also clarified that no youth corper died or was killed during the last election. However, some youth corpers were assaulted, and the NYSC has frowned at that. And so the editorial is happened strictly on that. The Independent National Electoral Commissions too has their requirement for ad hoc officers, particularly members of the National Youth Service Corps. And they are supposed to abide by the guideline for the Electoral Act. If any of them is found colluding with politicians to do anything untoward, they stand to be tried because it's criminal act. And many of them have been warned. And they also are holding up their obligation of national service because they are supposed to be symbols of unity, and they should be a positive instrument for our democratic exercise.
You're right, Bayo. Right.
Okay, yeah, that's very well put, Bayo. Thank you very much. We'll see you after the elections, and that will be on Monday.
There will be no prophecy, but by Tuesday we should have some positive results.
No, by Sunday, I'm sure the results for the number of the seats would have been announced, unless they have some unforeseen circumstances. But the constituencies are much smaller.
Yeah, they are smaller.
So the wards, you are dealing now just with a few number of wards where you can collate from the polling unit, you go straight to the ward, collate, and then you announce.
Yes, for the ward levels, it will be announced at the wards.
That's
for the councillor level, at the councillor's level. Federal and state constituency at the constituency level. It is only the state that will have to come to the state capital for the announcement. None is coming to the International Conference Center. It is only serving as a coordinating situation
platform. That's right. That was for the presidential.
Sure.
By the way, I'm sure that by Monday, latest, they should have the governorship results in virtually, unless again there are unforeseen circumstances. Bayo, do enjoy your weekend.
Thank you.
All right, it's Good Morning Nigeria. We'll take a short break now. When we return, of course, our focus will be on the lead up to tomorrow's voting. All right, welcome back, and it's still Good Morning Nigeria, reaching you live on the network service of the Nigerian Television Authority. Now, topic for today, of course, is to discuss the final preparations for the state governorship and House of Assembly elections taking place tomorrow, plus the area council elections also holding in the Federal Capital Territory. Let's welcome our guests who are already here with us in the studios. First, let's welcome Alhaji Yahya Bello, who is the INEC Resident Electoral Commissioner for the FCT. Alhaji Yahya, pleasure to have you with us on Good Morning Nigeria.
Thank you very much. Good morning, and good morning, every Nigerian.
Okay.
And FCT Nigerians.
All right. Also here with us in the studios, I would like to welcome the retired Commissioner of Police. At some point in the course of his duty, he was Commissioner of Police in charge of the FCT Command. Mr. Lawrence Alobi, a lawyer and a security consultant. Mr. Alobi, pleasure to have you with us.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Okay. Also here with us in the studios is a lawyer, Muntasir Dauda Sharif, is of the Department of, Faculty of Law at Nile University here in Abuja. Muntasir, pleasure to have you.
It's a pleasure, and good morning, Nigeria.
We also like to welcome our colleagues now, correspondents in the different states are joining us from. Let's welcome first, join us via Skype from Uyo, Miriam Vincent Okon. How are you, Miriam? Good morning. Okay, also in our Enugu studio, but is from NTA Owerri, Bright Ebusho. Good morning to you, Bright and Miriam. Okay.
All right. Now, just sometimes we have challenges with our Skype connection. Before we lose the connection from Uyo, where the signals are still strong at this hour, let's go back to Miriam Vincent Okon, who's joining us via Skype from Uyo. You saw her a moment ago on the right side of your screen. That she's back there. Miriam, good morning and welcome to Good Morning Nigeria. Now, Akwa Ibom, of course, has been in the news like most other states, but it's also been penciled down as one of the states to watch in the course of the governorship and state houses of assembly elections. Tell us the story of Akwa Ibom right now on the eve of elections.
Good morning, Kingsley, and good morning, Nigeria. Akwa Ibom State has been very peaceful, though we do get to hear stories from other states. People get to call you. A few days ago, someone called me and said, I hear Akwa Ibom State is on fire. And I said, of course not. At least I moved smoothly from my house to the office, and we are going about safely about our businesses here in Akwa Ibom State. Now, the elections here for this election 2019 can be said to be a bit different from what we have always had, considering the fact that there has been a dominant party in Akwa Ibom State, talking about the PDP, right from right from 2015 when we had the last election. From the very commencement of democracy, also uninterrupted democracy, we have had a very dominant party, the PDP. And with that on ground, there hasn't been much of a contest because no other party has actually been able to step into Akwa Ibom State and make a headway. In fact, in the past, we used to hear that PDP is a religion in Akwa Ibom State. But permit me to make reference to a very significant incident in Akwa Ibom State, talking about the defection of the former minority leader in the Senate, Chief Godswill Akpabio. His move from the PDP has left a mark and has made history in the political history of Akwa Ibom State. Now we see the gladiators, the major gladiators, political gladiators, now divided. we see most of those big names in the PDP moving to the APC. Now, this has left a story in this year's election. We also know that with that incident, it used to be a case of carry go. You could hear that slogan at campaign rallies. Your Excellency or whatever, we are telling you it's carry go. That this time around, the situation is different. You hardly hear that slogan anymore because it's almost like a 50-50 situation. This also has had a very positive impact on the part of the electorate. Now the power has been given to the electorate. You find out the politicians have now realized that, look, these people are the ones who are to put us there, and then they are giving back the power to them. So Akwa Ibom State this time around is different from what we have had. Now the preparations here is very, very high. I must say, INEC has been on top of their game. As at Tuesday, about 2 days ago, they were at the CBN where they commenced the distribution of sensitive and non-sensitive materials to the local government areas. And as we speak now, the materials have gotten to the local government areas. And I spoke with the REC, Mike Igine, last night as late as about 10 p.m. And he assured me that all is now set for the elections of tomorrow. And then also assured me that materials moved early enough so that they could avoid the challenges of the last election, talking about the presidential and National Assembly elections which held in the state. And we tried to find out what challenges there were, and we discovered that it was that of early opening of polling units in most areas. Some of those areas opened as late as 9 a.m., 9:30. And then we tried to find out why that was. Well, he couldn't give us a direct answer, but we also got across to some of those electoral officers who were at the centers, and we were told that the vehicles that were to convey them to their polling units did not come out early. And I put that across to Igine last night, and he told me that all that had been sorted out. And then the vehicles will be very much available early enough so that the electoral officers could be at their polling units before 8 a.m. to ensure that elections actually take off by 8 a.m. and end at the right time. So Akwa Ibom State, for now, we say it's very peaceful, despite the social media postulations that there's violence in the state. We're peaceful here.
Thank you very much, Mayor Vincent Okon. I'm sure we'll get back to you.
I just have some more questions for her. Yes, before we again, that's the challenge of the Skype connection. Miriam, there are some more facts that I would like you to give to our viewers. You gave the impression that this is a two-horse race, as it's been virtually for the National Assembly and presidential election. There are 91 registered political parties. How many governorship candidates do you have? And invariably, who are the front runners? That's the first leg of my question. Second leg will also be as follows. Other than the fact that personalities have moved from one party to the other, what are the other issues that are driving that drove the campaigns up until last night and therefore might influence the voters tomorrow?
Thank you, Kingsley. We have 45 governorship candidates who will be participating in tomorrow's election. 45 of them say that means that we have 45 political parties vying for this seat. Now, secondly, what is actually driving the campaigns in Akwa Ibom State? One is the issue of workers' welfare. The workers have been clamoring for improved welfare, and then they have also been saying that the only person that will get their votes is the one that will promise them improved welfare. We also have the issues with pensioners. The payment of pensions and gratuities also has been an issue, and it's been in the front burner. And those pensioners are saying, well, we can only look for a man who will be able to pay us our pensions and gratuity. So those areas are top on the agenda of the electorate, and that is a very strong point that the contestants are also using in their political campaigns. Let me also inform you that in Akwa Ibom State, we have over 2 million voters who are registered to participate in tomorrow's election. And they have been clamoring for improved education, improved welfare of workers, payment of gratuities, and of course, students also are also keening into this by asking for payment, payment of their their own side of the bargain too. They are saying that bursaries is also mandatory for the state government. So they are calling on those who are contesting that if they cannot pay their bursaries, of course, they should not expect votes from them. And now another aspect of this election is also that the education, voter education, has almost been taken away from INEC. We have political parties and political gladiators who now go to the extent of going to voters house to house and teaching them how to vote. We had an incident on the day of the presidential and national assembly elections here in Akwa Ibom State, where in one of the polling units, a man walked in and said, look, when you go, thumbprint and be careful so that the ink does not flow through your form. And the women revolted and said, no, our political leader did not ask us to thumbprint. She asked us to use this finger to vote. And that tells you that there's a lot of awareness in Akwa Ibom State. People are very much ready to go out there, and the politicians are also playing their part by ensuring that their voters are well educated.
Miriam, you said earlier in your interaction with us that you had spoken with the REC, that's to say the Resident Electoral Commissioner Andrew Igini in Akwa Ibom. Now, of course, you are also aware of several reports in both the social and traditional media about the issues that some persons have with him, calling for his removal or his redeployment. Has he overcome those challenges, and is he in the frame of mind to superintend over the conduct of the elections tomorrow?
I think Mike Igini has been on top of his game in that area. From our conversation with him, he does not seem to want to be deterred by people calling for his removal. In fact, his slogan now is free, fair, and credible elections. He wants to deliver the votes of the people. He wants to make sure that the people vote and that their votes count and that their votes are also counted. He seems not to be moved. And the clamor for the removal of Igini also has divided the state to some extent. Some people are asking, why would anybody want Igini removed? They see him as a forthright man, while others are calling for his removal. They don't seem to understand why anybody will call for the removal of Igini. But the beauty of the story is that Igini has remained resolute. He's standing firm. He's going ahead with the elections and assuring the people of the state that elections will hold. In fact, the clamor for his removal, caused some sort of sensation. And every day on the social media, you get to see Akwa Ibom State Rec Igini transfer from Akwa Ibom State. And people have been asking questions on a daily basis. But as I speak with you, as at last night when I spoke with him, he is still the rec of INEC in Akwa Ibom State, and he has assured us. In fact, let me borrow his words, because I asked him, what will you say if you were given an opportunity to talk to Nigerians? What would you say? He told us that all is now set for Saturday's election. Those were his final words to us yesterday. That tells me that the man is very much on ground and ready to do his business.
Very much, Miriam. Just one quick one. The aspect of security is another area that people are concerned about. There were, of course, some skirmishes here and there, and I'm sure they want to overcome that for this Saturday night of March election. What about security? What were you told, or what have you seen so far in this preparation?
Security in Akwa Ibom State is tight. It was last week, either Thursday or Friday, we had the Nigerian Army 2 Brigade had a joint operation show of force with the Nigerian Police Force, and then they took the show to the areas that one could describe as the flashpoints in the state. And when we tried to find out from the public relations officer of the Nigerian Army 2 Brigade, he told us that they had to do that to assure those who may have been scared of, who would be scared to come out on Saturday to vote, that look, the army is on ground and ensuring security. The police is also on top of the game. You drive some distance and you find police officers standing by to ensure that there is security. So the security in Akwa Ibom State is very tight. The army, the police and all other sister agencies are very much on top of their game. Now, about 2 days ago, the INEC rec again in Akwa Ibom State also called for a meeting of security agencies, and he has also been able to explain to them, what will be required of them, and they're on top of their game. You get to see them around throughout this night. We could hear blaring siren blaring around most areas of the state, and that tells us that security here is tight and they're on top of their game.
I'm Vincent Okon. I'm sure if we still find time, we'll get back to you in the course of the program. Thank you very much. So far, good report from Akwa Ibom State. Okay, let's get to Enugu studio, where we earlier introduced Bright Ebosho from NTA Owerri, but is in our Enugu studio. Okay, Bright, good morning to you once again. I'm sure this managing the electoral process for your area, that's NTA Owerri and the environments where you're in, it's not going to be difficult, or will it be that easy based on what you've heard or seen so far in the terms of preparation from all stakeholders? Tell us what you know.
Good morning, Blessing, and good morning, Kingsley. Thank you for having me on set with you this morning. I would want to dissuade, contrary to the fears so many persons have about Imo State concerning the elections, I would want to dissuade fears along that line that based on what happened on February 23rd in the presidential and National Assembly elections, I was assigned to cover Olu Senatorial Zone, precisely Diato South and North also, Oru East and West, then Olu local government area. Around that period, there were no electoral violence in terms of ballot box snatching and all of that. The only challenges recorded in those areas was late arrival of INEC personnel in terms of electoral materials, card reader malfunctioning, and the rest. But in spite of that, we had high turnout of voters, especially among the elderly. They were patient, waiting to cast their vote. Despite that challenges, because the waiting actually delayed into mid-afternoon, somewhere between 12 and 1 before they could set up their system. The presiding officers around those areas were doing all they could to see how they could get the card readers to work, to no avail. But eventually, in spite of all those challenges, which was in the early period of that morning, elections eventually went smoothly, and there was no case of ballot box snatching. Although in some other parts of the state, as you must have heard also, there was some skirmishes, some area of ballot box snatching and the likes. But then the security agencies have assured that they are investigating, and they would ensure that security is not just only beefed in this Saturday election, but to ensure that all those who will come to constitute violence or in terms of snatching boxes will be dealt with.
Right. Thank you very much. That's for your opening salvo. But now let's get into the nitty-gritty of the contest for the governorship in Imo. Now, earlier when we were reviewing the newspapers, we did refer to the illustration on the front page of the Daily Trust newspaper, where 12 states were branded as being where the contest will be tough. Imo is one of such states. What are the peculiarities of the contest for the governorship in Imo? We know there are issues relating to cross-party endorsement and a number of heavyweights who have thrown their hearts into the ring. Who are those that are likely to fall?
We have over 70 governorship candidates vying across various political parties, but as we have it now, we have 5 contendants. We have a former Deputy Speaker of the House of Representatives, Emeka Ihedioha of the PDP. We have Senator Hope Uzodinma of the All Progressives Congress. We also have former Governor Ikedio Hakim. We have former Senator Ifeanyi Ararume of the All Progressive Grand Alliance. And of course, we have Ngumba Uche Nwosu, former Chief of Staff of the incumbent governor of Action Alliance. These are the 5 contendants. And the issues on table, just like my colleague Unio has already mentioned, it's also peculiar in Imo State. The issues on ground are centered around workers' welfare, pensioners, centered around infrastructure, and more likely that would actually be the icing on the cake. It's about zoning. As it were, Olu zone has occupied 16 years between Achiku Udenwa and the incumbent governor, Rochas Okorocha. Between the two of them, they've had 16 years, while Okigwe zone have actually spent 8 years. But the Owerri zone just had, I think, a year and 10 months. They feel cheated based on the zoning principle, the principle of zoning in the state, which says each zone has on the right to occupy the Douglas House after the former zone have actually occupied. So the whole thing is centered about workers' welfare, pensioners, infrastructure, and the right for somebody from the Owerri zone to occupy Douglas House. These are the issues on ground that I feel would actually channel the course of how voters will vote across party line. Irrespective of party, these are the things that will be the defining factor.
Bright, thank you very much. But you said there are over 70 contenders for Douglas House. The last figures we had indicated that there were 71 of them, which is only 20 fewer than the number of political parties. In most other states of the Federation where you're having governorship election tomorrow, perhaps with the exception of Ogun, it's usually a two-horse race. Now you have 5 front runners, as you have indicated. What is that likely to do to the sharing of the votes? Tell us also about the voting population and the number of PVCs that were picked up by these candidates. I'm sorry, picked up by the registrants.
I actually do not have the figures of the number of registered voters and number of cards actually picked, but I can actually tell you that, just like I mentioned earlier, voters would align towards those they are confident, looking at antecedents of what you have done in the past. Those that actually brought some things in the state when they were in the National Assembly. What have you done in the past? What are the prospects of your manifesto that you have in terms of infrastructure, quality infrastructure, education, especially in the area of local government elections, which has actually been in the top burner, actually. The people want a government that would come in and ensure that infrastructure is being taken care of, civil servants are being paid, pensioners are not being owed, and also, in terms of infrastructure, all those things are actually put in place. Then the issue of zoning also is most likely going to be the deciding factor, like I also said. It's going to actually tilt to whichever favor it would go to. The issue of zoning, as it were, it's a very sentimental one in some parts of the state, where some people actually believe that it is the right of the people from the Owerri zone to occupy Douglas House after a great while. They think it's their turn and they should come up.
All right, Bright Bocho, thank you very much. We will return to you in the course of this conversation to tell us some more about the issues that pertain to our tourism that apparently underpins the governorship elections in Imo State tomorrow. Now, we have another of our correspondents, just before we engage our 3 guests with us here in the Abuja studios, also joining us via Skype from Dutse, and it's Abdullahi Garba Beninkudu. Abdullahi, good morning and welcome to the program.
Good morning, Kingsley.
Right, I had some pure tone clarity from your voice in Dutse, so let's engage you before we get lost in the Hamatan haze or in the dust haze around Jigawa. You are covering Jigawa State. Jigawa, of course, has not been identified as one of the areas to look out for, but still there is a contest there, and if so, what is the coloration?
Kingsley, let me tell you that Jigawa is peaceful and calm, and all the relevant stakeholders are fully ready for tomorrow's governorship and state assembly election. As you know, Jigawa is a peaceful state. The people and the security agencies and the INEC are working together for a very long time, sensitizing the people towards a peaceful conduct. Interestingly, 19 candidates are contesting the governorship election in Jigawa State. One, for the first time, we are having a woman who is contesting under one of the political parties. So Jigawa is peaceful and ready for the election.
Could you let's take a look at what we'll find maybe heavyweights like we have in some other states that are offering candidates as high as 70. Now you have 19 and a woman. What are the high stakes for such personality, and what kind of contests are we likely to be having in Jigawa State?
You know, Jigawa is a politically conscious state since in the old Kano state. But it's like sometimes the political landscape here, it goes to show that people go to the ruling party, which is ruling the state. So for now, there are three major runner-ups contesting. I can say they are being favored as those who are leading in favor of the main candidates. That is the APC, which is the incumbent governor, and the PDP, which is being contested by Aminu Ibrahim Ringin, and also the SD. Actually, it may interest you to know that all the three contenders come from one senatorial district. That is the Jigawa Northwest Senatorial District. That is why the battle will be in the other two senatorial districts of Jigawa Central and Jigawa Northeast. So the contest will be who will get more votes from the other two emirates which have larger population in the state. That is the Jigawa Northeast and Jigawa Central. So the three contenders will share the other emirate which they come from, which is the Jigawa North West.
Before we lose the signal from your Skype connection, let's take a look at the mood of the electorate generally. What are they saying to you? How is the atmosphere out there, but Duse and even Jigawa generally? What are you receiving as signals on the readiness, both the electorate and other stakeholders?
As of yesterday, when I spoke to the resident electoral commissioner, Dr. Mahmoud Isa has confirmed to me that all the sensitive material had been distributed to all the 27 local government areas of the state, which are, you know, Jigawa is has a large landmass, so but they try to ensure that those materials have reached nook and crannies of the state as at yesterday night. And also, the police have deployed all their security personnel. So the mood is general for the D-Day, which is the election day. But I can tell you, when you compare the kind of interest the election is generating, I can say that the presidential election was generating more interest than this one. Maybe because people were more concerned about the presidential than they are concerned about the governorship and state assembly election. That is why when I interviewed some of the people, I sampled their opinion. They said maybe in near future, Nigeria will look at the possibility of changing the date of election to make it that the presidential election should be separated from the National Assembly election, while the National Assembly election should be held together with the State Assembly election, so that people will concentrate and elect the best of their candidates so that the presidential election and the governorship election will not dominate the issues when we talk about the interest it generates on the presidential election and National Assembly election.
Abdullahi, still with you, what were the issues that arose in the course of the February 23rd elections in terms of logistics and access to polling stations, use of card readers, and so on and so forth? And therefore, what do you think that INEC needs to correct ahead of tomorrow's elections?
I think Jigawa did not experience much of problems in the last election. I think it was only one local government in Guaram where they experienced the issue of cartridge were very minute. I do not, the INEC held the election up, but yesterday he said they are fully ready. Those problems, and he's not.
All right, Abdullah Garba Bernikudu, thank you very much. If we have calls to return to you later on and if the signals are still okay, of course we'll do that. Otherwise, thank you very much to you and others who have contributed to our discussion this morning. But we still have our three guests with us here in the Abuja studios, and so we'll engage in them now. And if we have, of course, blessing, we'll return to our correspondents. Let's, of course, bring in the FCT REC, Resident Electoral Commissioner, Alhaji Yaya Bello. Alhaji Yaya Bello, of course, you'll be listening to our correspondents bringing in their reports. You don't have a governorship election to conduct in the FCT, but certainly you have elections to conduct. So is INEC good to go in the FCT?
Thank you very much, Mr. Kinsley. Of course, we are very good to go. All arrangements have been concluded. It was conclusive. First of all the sensitive, non-sensitive materials, in fact, the non-sensitive materials were already located and they were there available at the 6 area councils during the last election. And yesterday, all the sensitive materials, that is ballot papers and result sheets, have already been conveyed to all the 6 area councils of the FCT. And by today, Friday, all the other materials, sensitive and non-sensitive, the racks have already been prepared, they have been arranged, so they will move into the rack camps. That is, when they move to the camps today, they will be able to do at least 3 things. First of all, they will distribute the materials. They will be able to ensure that the transport and feeding allowances of all those personnel are already on the ground. They will be giving them this night. But most important again is that all those who participated in the last elections, who are ad hoc staffs, including the APOs, the POs, and then the SP, all of them will receive a refresher course this night in the camp, so that they will be refreshed in the use of the card reader, and every other area that had problem, during the last election will be x-rayed so that it will be eliminated. And we are hopeful, very hopeful, that by the grace of God, by 6 o'clock tomorrow, Saturday, they will be able to move to polling units, set up their shops, that's what I used to call them, but by 8 o'clock in the morning, accreditation and voting simultaneously will begin in all the polling units.
Okay, the last election, on the sensitive issues actually from people not knowing exactly proper delineation of where the polling units were, different from where they registered the last time or got the accreditation. For some, there were just some unusual movement for people, actually getting them frustrated. How has INEC resolved this one now?
We did, thank you very much, because we also noticed it. What happened is that people were more educated after this, the last election, on the fact that they have to look at their PVC, the permanent voter card. It will tell them, the first thing, it will tell them exactly where to vote. And also, we made available telephone numbers, for everybody, so that if you don't know where to vote, these are the telephone numbers that you can call, and then you give them the first, the letter, and the first 2 numbers of your PVC. They will be able to tell you where your location is, so that you go and vote correctly. Besides, most of the people that have been going to wrong places have been going to places that are not so far apart. So we have also our own officers stationed in all the polling units, so that if we have those who have gone to another place by mistake, they will be directed, and the places where they are supposed to go is not so far away. Because, in fact, movement at that time is not so restricted to those pedestrians. The movement during the elections are mostly restricted to, people moving about, with vehicles, conveying people from one polling unit to another for no reason. You know, so these people who have made a mistake can easily relocate from the information they will get in every polling unit.
Well, I'm sure you're aware that there were complaints by voters as to the challenges that they had in identifying or locating the appropriate polling units. I'll give you an example, and this again with the management of the procedure. Now, some of the voters complained that they will be on a queue at a particular polling unit, and on getting to the head of the queue where they need to verify their PVC, they are then told that no, they are at the wrong location. Then the director says, okay, go to the next polling unit or go to the adjacent voting point. Again, they go there, stay on another queue, and by the time they get to the head of the queue, they say, no, this is not where you're supposed to be. Go to another location. I'm sure that you are aware, I mean, in some jurisdictions, say in the U.S., for instance, this is part of what is done when you want to frustrate voters. But that necessarily wasn't probably the case with us here. But how do you intend to address that? Couldn't there be a better management procedure? Somebody one of your officers, probably just goes to check those who are on the queue, and instead of allowing a voter to be on the queue for X number of minutes or almost X number of hours before being redirected to another PU where he's further redirected, and before you know it, it is 2 o'clock.
Thank you very much. This is a very welcome input. This is not something that we can say it will be adhered to and implemented 100% in this in the post of tomorrow. But honestly speaking, what we had on the ground, in order to eliminate this, we will invite inputs and would encompass this your own, because it's very important. But even as it is today, I will try as much as possible to see if I can, utilize what I have got from what you have said. I will pass it to our EOs. We are not so far away. We are in FCT. We have only 6 area councils. In fact, I'm meeting with the EOs today. I will meet the EOs, and then I will see if we can have an officer who will be able to do this to our own level, at least as a starter, so that after the election, there's going to be a post-election post-mortem, which will look holistically at every suggestion in order to improve on the election. This one, by the grace of God, as I listen to you, I'll be able to see what I can do about it for tomorrow's polls.
All right, Alhaji Ayabelo, thank you very much. Let's pause you and then bring in now retired Commissioner of Police, Lawrence Alobi. Mr. Alobi, of course, you've listened patiently and quietly to the comments being made. Were you satisfied with the operationalization of the security architecture for the February 23rd elections?
Very.
And depending on your response, what would you like to see tomorrow?
Yeah, thank you very much, Kingsley. In fact, I gladdened my heart when I saw the Nigerian police force under the leadership of Mr. IG Adamu did very well during the 23rd February elections. And because that was predicated on the fact that this is the first time that the police management organized a capacity building training program for officers of men of Nigerian police force in all the 12 police zones in the country. And that training actually enhanced their capacity, their understanding of what their role should be. And also, the IG has always emphasized on professionalism, and that was the core, the trust of that capacity building training program. For them also to be acquainted with the electoral laws, electoral acts, and what they should do when challenges arise. And based on the past experience, they will be able to analyze. And I think they came out very well, very strong. The police did very, very well. Even the pessimists can attest to the fact that the police did very well in the 23rd February elections. And I think they will even do better this tomorrow when they go back to the field. I'm very, very optimistic. Like not too long ago, the IG met with all the commissioners, the AIGs, field commanders, and they analyzed, had a kind of a post-mortem to see where were the challenges, where did they go wrong, what lessons do we learn, and how do we now improve on that. In this way done, I think by tomorrow, I think they will do better from what they did on the 23rd of February.
In light of what you have just said, what then went wrong in places such as Agor Palace Way in Okata in Lagos?
No, see, no election is violent, is free of any such challenges. Anywhere. Conflict is an integral part of man and society. And the important thing is that what is important is how do we manage when it arises? And of course, the police took control and they were able to manage the situation. And the police also, not only the police who are the lead agency that the forefront, the other security agencies, the army, other sister agencies are also collaborating with the police to ensure that they provide an enabling environment for the electorate to come and cast their vote without any threat or intimidation, to make sure elections are free, credible, and transparent. I think there are bound to be conflicts everywhere. There are bound to be conflicts. But the most important thing is that how do we respond to such situations? How do we contain them? How are we able to manage effectively to ensure that this situation is brought under control and provide enabling and provide a peaceful environment secured for voters to cast their vote?
I know that, of course, the police suffered their own losses as well as injuries. I mean, on account of being attacked, one of which was the assault of a deputy commissioner of police, by some persons in, I think, in Bayelsa State or somewhere. But you are also aware that there were a number of reports of attack on INEC officials and, of course, assault on collation centers. What, in your opinion, should be done to enhance the security in and around collation centers? But it will now appear that potential disruption of voting now becoming a challenge. The target is to go to the collation center where some persons believe that they can wangle the results in their favor.
Yeah, I think the police and other security agencies have learned their lesson. Like I said, they had a post-mortem analysis, state analysis of what took place on the 23rd of February. And it's the issue of access control is very important. And access control has various levels. Because not only the polling station itself, the polling booth itself, but before the polling booth, the various levels, the outer, inner. Those are the levels of access control. And when this is beefed up effectively, I can ensure they can repel any threat to anybody who want to. It's unfortunate that Nigerian politicians are very desperate. They do things in a very beastly manner. And I hope this time they will show some improvement in their character. And because this desperation is not too good for our democracy. But then the security agencies, the military have also assisted the police very effectively. And with that, I think we'll be able to tame anybody who wants to come and disturb the peace. Like the IG has warned that it will deal decisively with anybody who wants to threaten the peaceful election, the conduct of elections.
All right. Thank you very much, former Commissioner of Police Lawrence Olobi. We'll come back to you. Let's also now bring in Muntasi Dauda Sharif, who teaches law at the Nile University here in Abuja. Well, Muntasi, sorry, we're coming to you last amongst the guests with us here in the Abuja studios. Ahead of tomorrow's elections, what is your take of preparations, conduct, and what to watch out for?
Thank you very much, Kingsley, and good morning, Nigeria, once again. I think preparations for tomorrow's election has to be viewed in context of what happened in the last election. After the election, I understand that INEC a meeting with Rex to observe all that happened on the 23rd of February in order to see how improvements will be made. So for me, I think I'm optimistic that there will be very tremendous improvement in the preparations because I think the 23rd February election was not all that bad in terms of preparations, although we had issues where elections had to be extended because the conduct of election did not start on time. So I think INEC is going to be conscious of that, and with the assurances we even got from the reg who is here with us, I think the preparations will be very much smooth tomorrow.
Well, Muntasi, I mean, still with you. In terms of the competitiveness of the elections we're having tomorrow versus what we had on the 23rd of February, what's your prognosis? We'll listen to our correspondent from Jigawa, who probably has given us, the obverse, saying that in Jigawa there seems to have been more excitement about the presidential election than the governorship and state House of Assembly elections, against the grain that our politics is local. What's your prognosis in terms of the competitiveness of tomorrow's elections?
I think my prediction will be aligned to what you said has been captured on the Daily Trust newspaper, that there are certain areas identified as hot zones in terms of context in the election. Actually, it is normally so that whenever we have presidential elections in the country, it tends to excite more and more interest in electorates because of the nature of the country. But then I think there will be some sort of voter apathy in the governorship election in the zones where elections are identified not to be so hot. So I think that's my take about it.
All right, we'll get back to you in the course of the discussion. But at this point, we'll go on a break. Let's have some breathers. And when we return, there are already reactions from our viewers, and we'll go through them and see 1 or 2 minutes more with our correspondents as they joined us from the different parts of the country. You're watching Good Morning Nigeria. We'll be right back after this break. Welcome back. The program is still Good Morning Nigeria. Let's take a look at the tweet you've sent in, and we'll get on with the discussion. Bala Mohammed Gaidam says, we hope INEC will improve much in terms of logistics to avoid delay, as it was the case during the last election. Here's wishing them success in all their efforts to conduct free, fair, and credible elections.
Dele Jack Solomon tweets, now Nigerians must take this election better than the presidential polls, and while the police and other sister agencies should be non-partisan and must discharge their duties professionally in safeguarding the lives and property of the electorate before, during, and after the conclusion of the elections.
Low Alpha C tweets, it will be a hectic assignment for the security agencies. No thanks to desperation exhibited by politicians ahead of the elections. Apathy, frustration, and crisis on the part of voters should be avoided by INEC by making sure that electoral materials arrive on time.
Now, Igbatigbi Zekeri tweets, aside INEC's logistic preparations to bridge the lapses witnessed in the last elections, adequate attention should be given to security. The credibility of Saturday's election will largely be judged on the basis of the security with regard to the level of violence or otherwise that will be recorded.
From Festus Akimboyewa is this tweet. Nigerians should ignore the unreasonable utterances of politicians and go out and vote. The police and other security agencies must be proactive in their duty to protect lives and property of Nigerians. To make Nigeria great is a task that must be done, and it starts with our vote.
Mike Ayakwo tweets, now make your vote count. Go out and vote. INEC should ensure that electoral materials arrive at the polling centers on time. Security agents must be fair and non-partisan. The importance of electing popular candidates cannot be overemphasized.
Ashuri Mohammed says, let every Nigerian remember that the unity of this country is greater than the interest of any politician. Let's exercise our rights by playing according to rules. All actors should equally play their expected roles. This will ensure peace before, during, and after election.
Festus Akimboyewa, it's not the responsibility of INEC alone to conduct our elections. The security agencies, civil society organizations, and voters should support INEC officials to provide access and secure the voting process in tomorrow's governorship elections.
And he continues, from what we are hearing from INEC and security agencies, it seems INEC has created some contingency scenarios and had developed a contingency plan to deal with them should they occur on election day. The plan must include card reader malfunctioning, ad hoc staff shortages, and long queues.
And this is Zachary again. It says the issue of card readers should be well managed in tomorrow's election. During the last polls, at my polling unit, only 2 card readers were deployed without a backup. We spent a long time on the queue when one of the card readers stopped working until it was later rectified.
I'll go to this tweet from Festus Akimboyewa. Ahead of tomorrow's governorship election, voters and the civil society must communicate any credible and specific threats to the security agencies. And the security agencies must be well prepared for possible security threats, and they should take their responsibility extremely seriously.
All right, those are the tweets that we can take in the meantime. Let's return to the FCT, Resident Electoral Commissioner. A number of the tweets, of course, have spoken to the need for enhanced security, but there are also issues with the card reader. We keep hearing the card readers have been updated, whatever challenges there were have been rectified, they're back up, it will come within a few minutes, but that is where the frustration builds up. That's one leg. Second leg also has to do with the early deployment of materials and therefore arrival of election officials. What is it that went wrong last time that has been taken care of now, and what guarantees are there that they might not recall if there were problems?
Thank you very much, Mr. Kinsley. Let me take the issue of deployment of men and materials in good time. We have diverted from the old system of getting into MOU with NURTW and NARTO. This time around, they are serving as an agent of transporters. So after an MOU that is entered nationally with all these organizations, then we enter another MOU with state chapters of these unions and also the local government MOU with this. But we have departed in order to ensure that all the drivers who are supposed to convey our men and materials are on the ground. We have entered an agreement, not MOU, with the drivers. The drivers of these vehicles, we have entered into agreement with them at the local government or area council levels. They have entered agreement and they paid them, not the unions. They paid directly to the driver, directly. And 50% of the money is paid to him. He signs for the money and the MOU, and the unions become a signatory and witnesses. And because of their commissions, they are also deployed their own people down to the grassroots level to supervise and ensure that the drivers report in good time. They bring very good vehicles. The vehicles were inspected before they go on polls. And that has been taken care of, substantially, in the area councils. I believe in most of the local governments. So the issue of the card reader, the administration of the card reader, we have deployed RACTEX, that is technicians taking care of the card readers. But what I did this time around is that apart from the vehicles that they do, I have also hired seven vehicles, very good vehicles, inspected, paid for it. I deploy them to each area council. We have 6 area councils, but the municipal is the largest. So each area council has got one is going to get deployed one vehicle, very good vehicle, a bus, and the municipal will have 2. This is to ensure that if there is any problem with any card reader, it will be availability of transportation for the RACTEC, the technician, to be able to go immediately and check it. You see, and also today in the camp, we are going to refreshing their we have a refresher course for them, because some of them, that is the TOs, they will refresh their mind on the fact that they could collapse the card reader, and use it. So this system again will be re-emphasized during their retraining, or what I call it, some sort of a mop-up exercise, so that they will remember and what they will do, as a departure from the last time. So most of the time there could be a technical misunderstanding by the POs, those operating the smart card readers. But by and large, we have set up a modality whereby there could be a rapid response to any collapse of the card. Unfortunately, if you recall, during the presidential and national assembly elections, in one election, in one PU was repeated from the FCT, not because of because of information, because of communications. The card reader broke down, and there is no any air service, in that location to enable the PO to contact the RACTEC to come and and take care of the card reader. So we have to leave it at that and repeat the election, subsequently, and it was done. So we are trying to see how we can take care of the issue of the card reader this election.
Well, I would like you to speak to this. Yesterday on Good Morning Nigeria, one of our several guests is actually the president of the Wives Association of National Union of Road Transport Workers. And one of the allegations that she made, I would like to repeat that allegation in paraphrase, was to the effect that part of the reason for the delay of the distribution of sensitive materials and therefore the mobility of electoral officers had to do with the fact that the number of vehicles that were supposed to have been engaged, those numbers were not actually engaged. For instance, I mean, the claim was if you had 50 vehicles for a local government, they probably just, took only a couple of vehicles, so that one vehicle had to do many runs, and by the time they try to complete the entire assignment, they would obviously have arrived late. Why was this so?
Thank you very much, sir. Mr. Kingsley, I heard her. I watched the program.
Oh, that's fine. So that's great. So you had the opportunity of replying.
I had the opportunity to watch the program.
Yes.
She did well. But there is something that she was not aware of. It is not in every situation that we hire motor vehicles in order to convey men and materials to PUs. There are occasions whereby, because of difficult terrains, we have to hire motorcycles. Sometimes we have to hire donkeys. In some places they have to wear, because there is no way you can, honestly. In other places they hire donkeys, they hire motorcycles. So this one cannot be hired and negotiated with the National Union of Road Transport Workers. I'll give you an example. Even in Abuja here, the AMAC here, they have in fact, what we gave them for the hire of motorcycles, it was only yesterday again, the EOs of Municipal and Buhari and Kuje, they were asking for more money to argument for the hiring of motorcycles. So, and also motorcycles before the election were at the rate of about 2,000 naira. Because we are going to do election, the motorcyclists have increased the money 150%. So it is now 5,000, 6,000 naira for a motorcycle, and you pay us, or there will be no election. So you understand, this is not something we are going to negotiate with road transport workers. This money, we have to individually engage people who are going to go to difficult terrains. So maybe if she checks again, the unions, they are aware of something like this. But I did not dismiss her allegation. I saw the program yesterday. I did not dismiss her allegation. I talked with the EOs. I made a reference to what she has said. And we have been trying to see, we don't dismiss people who make suggestions.
Anyway,
we'll see how we are
I
going.
think that's the bottom line.
Yes.
Whatever suggestion coming, all is to make your job effective at the end of the day. Okay, let's quickly return to our correspondent who joined us earlier. If Mariam Vincent Okon is back online, let's have issue of card readers played a whole lot in the last elections. What other frustrations, and how is this frustration actually being conquered from your interaction with the INEC rec there and also other stakeholders? What are the greatest frustrations for the voter, at least presently, and how do you think it will be resolved?
There were two cases here, that of late arrival of materials to the polling units, which I had mentioned earlier. The election officers attributed to late arrival of buses to take them to their locations. And then on the issue of card readers, I spoke with the Guinea, and he told me that they didn't have much of that because that they had enough of card readers and they had backups for the card readers that they had. But the only challenge they had with card readers were that some persons refused to use the card readers. And for about 2 days now, he's been on enlightening people on the need to accept the use of card readers as non-acceptance have consequences. And so that the issue of card reader was not really much serious in our Akwa Ibom State, but the acceptance is what the INEC rec is actually trying to work on right now.
All right, Miriam, well, while you were giving us a lowdown on who the contestants are for the governorship, one point that we probably didn't have enough time to touch on was what might be crucial. Do you have a zoning issue as you have in Imo or as you have in Ogun and elsewhere, probably where you're having governorship elections?
The issue, the major contenders in this election are the APC and the PDP, and of course the PDP candidate, Udom Emmanuel and Obong Simaikere for the APC. The issue of zoning has been on in Akwa Ibom State. In 1999, the PDP adopted the zoning principle, which were not adopted by other parties. But seeing how well the zoning principle has gone in Akwa Ibom State, it seems to have been accepted generally. Because in this contest, Akwa Ibom State zone, the PDP zoned the governorship seat to Eket Senatorial District. And then the APC coming up has also chosen a candidate from that same senatorial district. So we can say that the two major contenders in this election are from the same senatorial district, and where the state had zoned the governorship to. So that also made the issue of campaigns a bit difficult, because it's now like a divided opinion, two persons coming from the same area and then contesting to be the governors of Akwa Ibom State. So that also has played out in these campaigns. So it's an issue of what do you have to offer the people of Akwa Ibom State. But as for the issue of zoning, that has been settled. The two major contenders are from the same senatorial district.
There are 2 million registered, 2 million plus registered voters. Do we have an idea of those who have their PVCs? Because the returns from the presidential elections didn't seem to suggest that he had up to 50% voter turnout on the 23rd of February.
In Akwa Ibom State, specifically, we have over 2 million voters who registered, 2,119,727 voters registered. And as we speak, 1,933,362 PVCs were collected, and going by percentage, 91.21% of PVCs were collected in Akwa Ibom State. And that tells us that we almost had 100% success recorded, but for the 186,355 who did not pick up their PVCs. So it's very encouraging. The level of collection of PVCs is on the high here. And then
well, Miriam Vincent Okon, sorry, you were freezing a moment ago, which gave us an indication that we're losing our signal. So we would like to appreciate you for your in-depth report and analysis of the goings on in Akwa Ibom on the eve of the governorship and State House of Assembly elections. Miriam Vincent Okon, thank you very much. You joined us via Skype from Uyo. We hope, of course, we'll get some more from you after the elections. All right, now let's return very quickly to our studios again and bring in retired Commissioner of Police Lawrence Alobi. Mr. Alobi, back to the tweets. The issue of security keeps coming up. Yes, you had plaudits for the police in terms of their performance, but take a look at this. Again, flowing from what we now refer to as the commonest phrase in describing politics, that all politics is local. At the very local level, House of Assembly and governorship, this will be almost a close combat. You know, the ward is very limited. So, and then you have, of course, many of such constituencies to cover. What, in your opinion, should be general stakeholder disposition to potential trouble and how to deal with it?
Yeah, I think the IG had warned, even when he had a conference with the major commanders, commissioner of police, the AIGs and so forth, and the rest, he did warn, he did emphasize that they should emphasize on professionalism. They should deal decisively with anybody who wants to foment trouble and disturb the peace conduct with the election. You see, even the election is local, as I agree, it's going to be very contentious. But the point is that in each state command, there are officers and men who have been serving there, who understand the terrain, the environment. Commissioner of police are there, the AIG, the DPO, the area commander, they understand the terrain. They're not going to import people from other people who who are strangers, the people who really understand the dynamics of the police in that particular state. And they also, with their planning strategies, they map out plans. And I can assure you that like they did very well on the presidential election. And I'm sure they're going to do better this time because they have learned from their whatever lapses they had in the presidential election. And this time they will improve on that. So I think they've done everything necessary. And if the police officers who are going to be deployed have been given rules of engagement and code of conduct, and they're going to be by these, they've been briefed and lectured on these. And I think, and they've been given the IG has promised all of them are going to be given their necessary their allowances. So they're being motivated. So I think the police are ready. And the police, the military too are there behind the police, supporting them effectively to make sure they contain any threat to anything that will threaten the peaceful conduct of tomorrow's election. So I think I'm very confident. I'm very, very optimistic that the police will excel as they did during the presidential election.
Oh, yeah, like you said, you keep applauding that they did very well, but then there were several even incidences of attacks, even on the security personnel themselves. Yeah. Like we gave the example of the one at Okota. Just a lone policeman trying to ward off about 4 thugs who were trying to snatch, eventually those ones that even set some ballot boxes on fire. What other strategy, at least for you, even having police a place like FCT, perhaps on the other formations that you served, we keep saying, okay, there could be flashpoints. Yeah. Shouldn't there be areas where we have to strengthen such flashpoints in court to actually address what hitherto would just have been a normal process? You see,
in security management, you anticipate crisis to manage crisis. When you anticipate crisis, such situations, you practically take action and plan to prevent or contain when the event is occurring. And I'm sure the last election has actually, they've been able to study the flashpoint, the threats that were manifested during that election, and they're going to take action. You see, what the quota you mentioned, you see, the electors the talks have understood that inside the polling station, the policemen, they are not armed. So they catch on that. But with this now, they ensure that the police and the other security agencies have also that at the periphery, the word of any threat, anybody want to come and create any problem. So I think the polling stations, electors, I think they're more secure this time, and the environment is more secure and safe for them to cast their vote. I think the police and other security agencies are ready for anybody who wants to create any problem that would stop the peace.
Okay. Montase, I have this question. I mean, it has some legal implication. Part of what we saw during the presidential and National Assembly election was the high incidence of void votes, about 1.2 million. Now, there were also instances of outright cancellation of the voting in some locations on account of trouble. Some persons have raised the point that, look, who should suffer the consequence where, for instance, opponents decide to disrupt voting in the stronghold of their competitors? Who should suffer that consequence? Because it appeared to have been almost a peremptory decision. Okay, there's trouble here, okay, the vote in those polling units cancelled. Montase.
Yes, I think the answer to this question, I think, is a function of the extant law that guides electoral process. Within the extant law, I'm not aware of any provision making any of the candidates to suffer more because those troubles are attributed to maybe his supporters disrupting voting process in areas that he does not have support. So I think maybe there should be, this should be part of what we should be looking at in our review of the extant laws to make sure that firm provisions are made, to make sure that these incidences have been addressed.
Well, Montase, I understand what we're saying, but we do know, for instance, in the previous elections, I mean, take Kogi, for instance, when they had the inconclusive governorship election in which the late Abubakar Prince Abubakar Audu participated. Now, voting was disrupted in some of the polling units, and on account of the disruption, the polling had to be rescheduled. But it was, of course, in the course of having to work all of that out that he passed away. But what we saw last Saturday, during the presidential election, almost 2 weeks ago, was the fact that, okay, there was a disruption of voting, violence there, cancelled, not rescheduled. On what basis can such decisions be taken? Alhaji Ayabelo.
You see, it all depends upon the circumstances, what happened at the polls. For example, if, for example, some electors, those who are having their voters card, if they refuse to allow the POs to use the smart card readers, there could be something like that. A very strong, blatant attempt, to stop the use of card readers. If the card reader is not used, they will mark that polling unit 0. The other legal implication, I will not be able to say so in my capacity. But in the rules and regulations that we have, when such occurs, there should be no resistance for the POs. They will just sit down and allow the people, the thugs, to have their way, but then they will put 0 in that polling station. Because if the card reader is not used, that invalidates, the system and polling systems.
Well, there's a police officer on duty, and we keep hearing that, okay, a policeman around the PU is not armed. Couldn't we have a signaling system by which a police officer in whose view, that's to say, before whom an act of disruption of the voting process is taking place, for him to immediately call for reinforcement? Would you like to see that, CP Alobi?
Yeah, I think the issue of reinforcement, as the strategy has been put in place, in the sense that this access control, now the proximity to the police station is now closer. So anything, unless the officer who is at the inner, not the main police station itself, can assess the police station and know what is happening there. And in the event of anything, he can respond promptly to such a situation. I think that has been improved upon.
All right, thank you very much. Bright Ebocho, still with us from our Enugu Network Center. And, of course, you came in from Owerri, that's the capital of Imo State. Give us a look at, were there issues in the course of the voting of the February 23rd that you think might impact on tomorrow's voting if those issues were not rectified? And so, tell us those issues very briefly, and more, if any. If any.
Like I said earlier, where I covered was the Olu senatorial zones, Idiato South, North, and the rest of them, like I actually mentioned. Now, we had issues of late arrival of INEC personnel, like I mentioned, malfunctioning of the card reader, delay, which actually delayed the process of voting. Although the electorate there, the voter there were patient, determined to actually cast their vote. And although the presiding officers did everything possible to see how those challenges, but it was to no avail before they actually resorted to the manual process. So I want to believe that if INEC actually must have worked out modalities in that area, especially in areas of logistics, lateness in arrival of both their personnel and sensitive electoral materials. And I think if that is done, it will go ahead a long way to ensure that voting does not only start on time, but makes the process smooth. Then also in the area of security, like you also know, although in the area I covered, there was no recorded issue of any electoral violence in terms of snatching of boxes and the likes. But in some other parts of the state, we have issues where it was actually alleged there was pockets of ballot box snatching and the like. So I want to believe that the security agencies, the police, and other security agencies must have worked out measures to ensure that voters are not only guaranteed that their votes will count, but also that their lives are actually being protected, because some of the fears they have, given the hypes and tension around the time concerning the election, is that will their vote count? Will a repeat of these issues of ballot box snatching in some areas will it reoccur. So if they can be given a guarantee that security will be beefed up in all those areas where we had a little bit of skirmishes and all of that, if they can be guaranteed in terms of security, I think it will go a long way to ensure a smooth process in the Saturday's election.
Thank you very much, Bright Bosho from NTO Owerri, but you joined us from Enugu Network Center. We appreciate your time, and we wish you a safe trip back to Owerri, where you go to do your assignment tomorrow. Okay, we also like to appreciate Abdullah Igerba Birnukudu. Of course, we can join you again. The signal went poor, and we lost you, actually. Thank you very much also, Miriam Vincent Kings, thank you earlier. And back here in the studio, we'd like to appreciate Alaji Yahaya Bello, INEC President Electoral Officer for Commissioner, I beg your pardon, for the Federal Capital Territory. Thank you very much for coming on the program.
Thank you very much.
Okay, Barrister Muntasir Dauda Sharif, Lecturer, Faculty of Law, now University of Nigeria in Abuja. Thank you very much for coming on the program.
Thank you so much.
Okay, retired Police Commissioner, FCT Command, Lawrence Olubi. Thank you. It was great having you on the program.
Thank you for having me too. Thank you.
Okay, that's Good Morning Nigeria for today, and that wraps up the edition for the week. Well, we hope to see you on Monday, God willing, and of course, the outcome of the election will be topmost on our lineup. And to all the women, actually, Kingsley, well, maybe, I'm sure he will still do that. He forgot to tell me Happy Women's Day. Of course, as a woman who loves peace, I'll just quietly take that he will tell me later. Thank you for watching. My name is Blessing Abu.
Happy Women's Day.
No, that's not the way your voice had been all day.
All right. So. My name is Kingsley Osadolo. Thank you for your company. See you on Monday, and you'll have a lovely weekend ahead of you.